thank you for tuning in to Soundcheck. This is Brent and I's podcast where we review concerts, go over music that we like, and anything music related.
Yeah, welcome. I'm Brent, and my buddy and I, Walter, our original intent for this podcast, we thought, what if we go to concerts pretty frequently, and we thought it'd be pretty cool to go to them and review not just the performances, but like the whole experience. Like, you know, we love like going out to restaurants with friends and stuff, how the venue was, how the crowd was, drinks, food, all sorts of stuff. Now, because of COVID locking things down, unfortunately,
it's not the case anymore.
Super died down. So, but we still have ideas for things we can do. I mean, we're going to talk about like favorite artists, and we have a whole backlog of past concerts that we could get into, so we can still do the whole review process and stuff.
Right now it's going to be like a lot of reminiscing until everything lightens up with COVID, but we don't know how soon that's going to be. So as of now, we're just going to reminisce on past experiences, and even like concerts that we were at, but we never knew each other at the time too, which is actually kind of fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's a lot of fun, like offshoot, almost like themed things we can do. But yeah, so this first episode is just sort of like an introduction to all this. So it'll be pretty like, I don't know, I guess like more personalized than some of the others, about just like who we are and stuff. So I'm Brent. My background with like work and stuff is with videography and video editing. I'm currently working at a community college, and I don't know, I got a YouTube channel where I just sort of upload work related things that I've made along the way. And every once in a while I get like some personal projects. Like recently I've dabbled into some like album reviews and whatnot. Every so often I'm so bummed out again with COVID. This year we had so many cool things planned. I just bought a new camera, and I was going to really dive into concert videography of just like local bands and like, you know, underground artists and stuff. And I was so excited to really commit. I was really going to commit to that. So I'm really bummed about that.
Well, my name is Walter. I work for a pretty famous guitar company in Maryland. And I also work at a brewery in Maryland as well called Jailbreak Brewery. My primary job is the lead stainer at Paul Reed Smith Guitars. Basically how I got into music was ever since I was a little kid, like music was just always being played in the background, and I would always kind of like dance to it. Never knew what I liked. I just kind of liked anything that sounded good at some point. And just kind of engulfed myself in the music world from there on out, going from like normal radio hits, then to eventually searching out my own musical endeavors, by picking up the guitar, learning about music theory, instruments, and just kind of finding what I like in music in general.
Before I get into like how I sort of got into and what we mean sort of by like how we got into music, I guess, is just like when we sort of made the switch to like, I guess, thinking about and enjoying music like more critically, or just like in depth, and just like getting into just so many different worlds and like subgenres of it.
Oh yeah.
And I guess like an important piece of information for me going forward with the podcast is like, I am not a musician. I have like no sense of rhythm. I can't play anything. The most I've done is like messed around with some MIDI instruments and made some like ambient tracks, and was just like, man, even this stuff's like hard, like trying to make drums and stuff. I played violin when I was younger. That was pretty fun. But yeah, tried playing electric guitar and just like could not get my fingers to contort in any sort of way. And just so where I was getting with that is just like, I don't play an instrument, but I have such just like an intense love and fascination with music that like I've tried really hard just for fun. I've kind of tried to research like music theory and stuff like that. And like, I I am by no means an expert. Like I for sure don't fully understand a lot of it. A lot of it I've just understood through just like immersing myself in stuff and then just like being in like local music scenes, just hearing a lot of stuff in context. Like an example would be like, I understand what a time signature is, but if you played a song, I could not tell you what time signature it's in. Like that's kind of the stuff with me. So I'm just prefacing that. So in the future, I don't know if people get mad at me for like using some sort of like improper term or something like that. I'm just kind of like covering myself right at the beginning. But yeah, long-winded. But when I got into music, growing up, I didn't really think too much of music for a while. Like I enjoyed it. I was into like rock and country, I guess mostly until I was like 18. And then I just kind of like got tired of it and swore it off. And like 18 and on is like where I started to venture out some more. And like rock. And then finally what I got to is like rock gravitated to like heavier things. And then finally to metal, which we'll discuss a lot of.
Yeah, that's our forte.
That's ultimately our favorite. I mean, we have a lot of other interests. Like I certainly am not opposed to listening to like some jazz or some shoegaze or math rock or, you know, experimental electronic stuff, just like all sorts of stuff we're into. But yeah, at the end of the day, metal just does it for me. And it was definitely like end of high school, college where Slayer and Lamb of God were the ones that like kicked down, just kicked open the gates and just immersed me in just a whole world, a whole mess of stuff that's out there.
It was just kind of like, wow, they're yelling, but I like this.
Yeah.
I love it.
And the types of music I generally like, I'm pretty open-minded when I listen to a lot of stuff, but the stuff I always gravitate back towards is I'm always just looking for stuff with very kinetic energy and also just like, and so I usually tend to find that in like aggressive stuff. So like, in high school it was like, you know, dubstep and like intense EDM. That was kind of like where I found it. And then like metal, of course, and hardcore punk is where I find a lot of it. But there's some wild electronic and like noise acts. Hip hop, absolutely. Oh yeah, I've been just crazy about the last couple years. There's just been some amazing developments there. But yeah, I guess I think mathcore is probably overall my favorite, which is just this niche, weird subgenre within metal that's just essentially as like abrasive and like horrible sounding music can possibly get. It's just like completely raw in every sense of the word. And that's just, I don't know.
You just keep going back for more.
Yeah. I'm always just looking out for like the extremes of just like how loud, how mean, how intense can it get? So I'll branch out into other forays of, you know, sometimes I'll find some free jazz act that kind of scratches that itch. But yeah, I generally always kind of gravitate back towards metal.
I guess for me, like, I guess I covered it earlier, but like, what I generally gravitate towards, like he said, metal, but I'm also a guitar player, and I kind of analyze music from a different perspective. I like to, when I go to concerts, I like to like study how the performer is playing, how focused they are, but also like to see like what kind of energy they're bringing to the stage depending on the act. Like some acts tend to take their playing more seriously, so they stand a little bit still, and I'll watch them as an audience member. Like, even though I'm really into the music, I like seeing how they play. But some bands just say fuck it and just like go balls out and just go ham on stage. And I also really love that because like music's supposed to be enjoyable and it's supposed to be fun. And like, I don't see why you should limit yourself to one genre of music when there's just like so many takes on the same style, and everything should be appreciated.
Absolutely. And it's really fun when you get artists that like mesh together worlds that you wouldn't expect would come together.
And also, disclaimer, no means I have a great grasp on music theory. Just putting it out there. I dibble dabble. Yeah, I just want to put that out there.
Yeah, that reminds me too, like going forward, more about myself, like when we're talking about music, like restating about how I'm not a musician or instrumentalist or anything. So when I'm deep diving into a favorite artist or something, like I'm usually focusing on like the sort of ambiance or like the presence that they're sort of creating with their sound, lyrics and like themes with like the sort of story and the structure are usually like what I kind of get interested and dive into.
And the emotion that their face gives off when they're playing too kind of like says a lot, like how much time and care they put into the music too, which is like something I like watching. Like I apparently have a guitar face and like make faces like during certain parts when something you just kind of like close your eyes and just kind of like engulf yourself in the vibrations of the music.
Yeah, I've like when I've tried to describe to friends before about like why I'm really into metal, like a point of contention for a lot of people is like they can be fine with the instrumentals, but it's like the screaming and the growling they really can't get into. And I totally understand. Like it's I don't think anyone from like day one kind of likes it. I'm sure there's some people, but I don't know. It's kind of like an acquired thing, I guess. Like it just slowly chipped away, and just like one day listening to Lamb of God, it just kind of like clicked for no apparent reason. I just kind of kept immersing myself in their albums enough that finally it just sort of like, I kind of like got it, I guess. Like, and so I've just always loved when I go to a show and there's like some songs and some lyrics that really resonate with me. Like I just love being in a crowd of people and just getting to just like belt out the lyrics, just guttural in your belly, just like screaming out some stuff. I mean, I can't think of a specific band at the moment, but I just know I've been to shows that before. I think like Dillinger Escape Plan.
Oh, that was a great show.
That's something we could get into later. But yeah, Dillinger Escape Plan is my all-time favorite band. And I just know, I just can remember shows of just like being in a crowd and just being with some sweaty people, hyped beyond belief, and just like, you just like grab them by the shoulders and just like scream the lyrics into each other's face.
Yes.
And like, I love all forms of music. I love like singing along and stuff, but man, when something resonates with me, I gotta belt it out. Like I gotta scream that out. So.
And then when you have like a bunch of people who are into that, that's what they want to do. Like that really makes you like feel more accepted.
Yeah, it's a very cathartic experience. Like I usually try to describe it to people as that like it's a lot more fun than I think they probably like expect it to be. I don't know, because like a lot of the like violence and gore and stuff like that, like it's kind of, it's basically tongue in cheek, you know, like everyone's having fun with it, and it's just, I don't know, it's a very,
everyone has to have an image.
Yeah. It's just a very great experience, and the couple opportunities I've been able to bring people who weren't really versed in that world usually came out of it saying something along the lines of like, I'm surprised how like friendly everyone was.
Yeah. Like I remember going to the Periphery show. It was me and Renata, Alfredo, you and Sarah, and like Alfredo's never like been to a metal show, and like bringing someone new who's just kind of like really into just indie music, watching him like in the pit, like kind of like doesn't even know the lyrics, but he's just having so much fun because the crowd is having so much fun. And like to me that was an awesome moment, like when you can like see someone into a new world and they're enjoying it so much.
Absolutely.
That was a good show.
Yeah, that was so much fun.
Yeah.
That was that was a twofer for us. That weekend was Sarah's birthday and Valentine's Day.
Oh, right.
That was awesome. That was our second to last show. before the COVID lockdown. And then our very last one,
The one like in Soundstage?
we did like a twofer. There was a Cult of Luna headlining show at Soundstage, but we just wanted to see the opener Intronaut.
Oh, yeah.
So we saw them, then we bailed, and then we we're at Power Plant Live for Frozen Harbor,
Yeah, yeah.
where like each of the bars have different venues and stuff. Mm-hmm. That was really cool stuff.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, that was like right at the pinnacle when COVID lockdown was going to happen.
It was a very weird presence because like people were talking about it. Like they knew it was like in the country. I don't know if it was like necessarily like in Maryland yet. I mean, like it probably was, but just like people weren't tested and like didn't know and stuff. Yeah, that was such a strange feeling.
Yeah. And like we're just kind of like, well, I was thinking to myself, it's like there's kind of an epidemic about to happen, but like we're all out here partying, like nothing's going to happen. And it's kind of like a weird feeling because you're like, I should probably not be outside with a bunch of these people. But at the same time, it's like, what was it, like a Friday or Saturday night that you just want to enjoy maybe your last weekend or just enjoy your weekend as normal. Like there's nothing happening in the world. And I'm kind of glad I did it, to be honest, before you shut down. Like Intronaut was a fantastic band to see. Like that was my only second time seeing them. And it's always been like 2 or 3 songs, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't regret it at all. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as time goes on, we'll definitely go into our favorite venues and why they're our favorites. But generally, Baltimore and DC is where we've gone to most of them.
Philadelphia, like twice.
Yes, the Electric Factory in Philadelphia.
Yeah, which is now Franklin. Something with Franklin in it.
Oh, it got renamed?
Yeah,
Oh,
but it's still the same venue, but it was so cool.
We went there once. And yeah, that became one of my favorite venues. We'll definitely talk about that show one day. I'd say Baltimore Soundstage is probably my favorite venue. Just I've definitely been there or not at least like locally what we go to. Gosh, I just it's unreal. I'd say most shows I've gone to have been there. Rams had live a little bit.
Yeah.
But I don't know, they kind of started tapering off with metal shows there for a while. What was the one we saw? Bentley and Thank You Scientist.
Autobar. That's a good venue.
Autobar I've really come to enjoy.
Yeah. It's like
the more I've been there.
It's kind of like in a not so great looking area, but honestly, you're fine. To be honest,
it's a very nice feel that they have there. It feels very welcoming and cozy.
Like even the mean security guard just looks at you. You just go in.
Yeah.
But then that's like that's the extent of like how mean it gets every time I've been there.
That's all I can think of with Baltimore ones. I mean, there was like 1 or 2 times I went to, I think like Fishhead Cantina, I think, but like, yeah, I hardly been there.
All That Remains played there, and I missed that show.
Oh,
yeah, that was like when Jason Richardson was like newly part of the band, filling in for Ollie, R.I.P. But I heard like Jason Richardson just nailed it. Like it was fantastic.
That's sick.
Yeah.
And then for DC venues, I don't go to quite as much just because it's like on a weeknight or something. It's a bit more of a trek down there.
Yeah.
But like Black Cat's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I've been there once or twice. Although I am kind of bummed that some of the DC venues, I loved Rock and Roll Hotel there.
R.I.P.
That was I loved that place. It was just this narrow, like basement hallway. It was, oh man, it was grungy and I loved it. I'm a bit sad that venue's gone. And then I don't remember the name of it, but there was one we went to not crazy long ago. I always forget Vulvadenia.
Oh, the Kingsland. No, that's in New York.
I forget the name of that place, but that place closed down. The Pinch. That place
RIP
closed down as well.
well.
Both of these before COVID even.
Yeah.
And I think there might be another DC venue I've gone to, but I forget.
Probably like a local, like even more local than the Pinch or whatever. Probably like a super small. I think Velvet Lounge. I don't think we've ever went to, but like that's one of the DC venues.
Oh, whatever the one we saw Animals as Leaders with Plini. It was like
930 Club.
Yes. Okay. That's the other one.
Fantastic venue.
So those venues stay. Oh, and I can't believe I forgot the Fillmore in Silver Spring.
Yeah.
Those are like pretty much all the venues I've gone to in the area. And I mean, some offshoots for like real
local
bands, smaller shows and stuff.
Songbird, like in Adams Morgan, that's fun. I think that little strip on 16th Street is you can consider all of those venues just because live bands come and play, like famous or local, just entertainment for the crowd, for the drinking crowd especially.
Yeah. Yeah, Baltimore and DC is a pretty fun area for music.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a pretty open-minded, welcoming environment for all sorts of artsy shows and whatnot. There's that place we saw, the Black Queen, that one time.
That's right at the wharf.
Yeah,
in DC.
That was a nice
National
venue.
Harbor.
But we got home so late. I think it was like a weeknight too. That's some weeknight shows have been killers.
But it's usually
like the
fun.
Next day of work. Oh,
it's
always
fun.
worth it.
Yeah.
I always love it. But
Randy Blythe was actually at that show. I remember reading about that.
That's right. Yeah, he was real incognito. He didn't want to be seen, and I don't blame him.
Yeah.
But I would have liked to have like said hi or something.
Yeah. I've seen many great ads at that show. I forget what that place was called, but they had really good pizza.
Yeah,
they had really good pizza.
There's that. We mentioned Electric Factory, and then was it Kingsland
where we saw Car Bomb?
Yeah,
that was a good
that
weekend.
Was a fantastic show. Yeah, I think that's the farthest I've ever gone for a show.
Same here.
Beyond worth it. That was so much fun.
Yeah,
I already want to like get into the specifics of these shows. I'm trying to remind myself that this is like an introduction.
Yeah, we can't do that yet.
But I guess
you'll hear more about these shows and like how excited you'll know when it gets really good, when we start getting kind of like giggly.
I guess in accordance to more like introduction stuff, we could talk about first shows we went to.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. My very first concert, little background story, coming from like, I believe my mom was divorced at the time, or at least separated, but she wouldn't let me go to concerts. And my friend John was like, hey, do you want to come to this concert with me? And in the back of my mind, I was like, I want to go to a concert. I've missed out on WrestleMania so many times because my mom didn't want me to go out, whatever. But eventually she caved in because John's mom, R.I.P., convinced her to go to the concert. No, convinced my mom for me to go to the concert. And my first concert was Kid Rock. And I remember... I didn't know it at the time, but looking back at it, I think I was like one of like two brown kids there. Everyone else was like all yeehaw, brothered out. And I remember seeing everyone with like Budweiser, Bud Light, Corona cans, and then me and John being like, broke 10-year-olds had to share a Red Bull. But it was still a good introduction to the concert at Merriweather. Like, I saw strippers. I mean, as a 10-year-old, like
on stage with Kid Rock?
On stage with Kid Rock, but like they didn't like strip down nude or anything. But I wanted them to. That's when I kind of discovered myself. I was like, I like this.
Gotcha. I'll kind of separate. So like the first concerts I went to were like ones that my parents took me to, and I think the very first one I can remember was Alan Jackson, and then after that there was at Merriweather in Columbia. That's another venue. But anyway, at Merriweather, it was like Brad Paisley opening for.
You saw Brad Paisley?
It was Brad Paisley, Rascal Flatts, and then Brooks and Dunn. I think that's who it was. It was pretty decent.
Brad Paisley is a badass guitarist.
Oh yeah,
FYI,
he's awesome. Family loves him because he's a West Virginia boy representing. There might have been like a third country show I went to, but I really don't remember. So the first show that I went to, like without family involved, just like with friends going me along, was like jumping right into it. I mean, I like has like sort of just gotten into metal and stuff, and it was Mayhem Fest 2012 at Jiffy Lube Live in Bristow, Virginia. All day out in the heat.
Oof.
In the sweaty heat, all day metal festival. And I loved it. It was a great experience, but man, that was a way to dive into that world.
That's crazy.
And the first band I saw was I the Breather, which is this like
Maryland band.
I forgot about that. Yeah, from Maryland, like Christian metalcore. And they were really good, you know, lots of breakdowns and stuff.
Jumping in place.
Yeah, but my memory from it was like my friend, like best friend that took me there, was like pushing me up to the front. She was like, "You gotta get to the front. You know, this is like your first like metal band you're going to see. You gotta get to the front." And I couldn't get completely to the front because there was this like really large, shirtless man in front of me, and it was like, okay, fine, we're like close enough at the front. And then the band starts playing. It's wild and crazy. I like saw like a mosh pit behind me and was like, what is this like hurricane of people happening? And then like crowd surfers started coming in. I just like, you know, feet were like hitting me in the back of the head and stuff. And we started getting like pushed to the front. And I like really dove forward. I think I like tripped on someone and I threw my hands out to like sort of like block my fall and protect me. And both hands just like went on the back of that like shirtless dude. And he just had a whole sheen of sweat on him. And my hands were just like slipping and sliding all over.
I know that feeling.
And it was just such a grimy way to start it off, but it was so much fun.
My first metal show actually was seeing my friend Mike Perez and Gunter at Sonar, RIP.
Right on.
It was a local show, and they were opening up for this band called Vital Remains. And how I got into that was I think Mike gave me a flyer, and I thought the tour was called Vital Remains. Like I was in middle school, and I was like, okay, cool, that's brutal, whatever. No big deal. Sounds metal. I'm going to go. Went there, saw him play, and I decided to stick around for the whole show. And saw a lot of like metal acts that came from around the world. I think there was one from Venezuela, and actually like picked up like their CD. And after they played, it was Vital Remains next, and I didn't know like that was the band's name. Waiting, whatever, having whatever, water, soda, and lights dimmed. Everything gets all quiet, and then you just kind of start hearing like these metals and chains. And me, disclaimer, being Catholic at the time, was kind of like, this is cool. I feel edgy. And they opened up once the lights kind of like flashed on them. They came up with an upside down cross, and I believe they lit it on fire. And then my perspective was like, oh no, God's gonna be mad at me. And they just started going ham. And then like I didn't have any earplugs. Everything would just sounded all scrambled and like extremely distorted. But I was just like headbanging. And eventually like solos came around, and the guitarist at the time was just kind of like doing his sweeps or whatever. And in the middle of it, he started like fist bumping people, and I was lucky enough to get a fist bump off of that. And that was kind of like awesome for me, because I never touched a real guitarist's hand at that time. And I was like, that's awesome. He can do that.
He can do that. He has the power too.
Yeah. And then show ended, call my mom. I know they were so pissed. I was like, I can't believe you did this, blah, blah, blah. I got their permission at the end of the day though to do this. And waiting for them outside with my friend Andrew, and kind of saw this like hooker getting chased down by her pimp in the middle of Baltimore at like, I forgot, maybe like 11:30, maybe midnight, waiting for my parents. And then they were yelling, and eventually like the pimp just slaps the shit out of that hooker. And I was just kind of like, crap. some real shit going down. And that was like my first image of a metal show.
Yeah, definitely imprinted.
Will always be there. I'll never forget it.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that. You said that about the earplugs thing. I'm so just mad at like past Brent. Just I remember, it was a good many shows I went to without wearing earplugs because just like, gosh, our 18, 19-year-old me was just so resilient. I was just like in the pit entire shows and just like not wearing earplugs, just like, and just I could bounce back from injuries or whatever, be like completely fine. And just like now as the years have gone on, it's just like my body's so much less able to like bounce back from doing some of that stuff. Like then it became like, okay, you know, can only like be in the mosh or whatever for like this set. Now it's just like only favorite songs. It's like 2 or 3 favorite songs. You got me. Otherwise, you know, I'm by the bar, just like on the edge hanging out.
You're on the edge of despair. Like, don't hurt me.
Yeah.
Don't hurt me. Oh my God. Like, yeah, like my body used to be able to take a beating back in the day and I would just recover like no problem. And, yeah, as I got older, I think my prime, if you'd even want to call it that, was like my early 20s. And like Warped Tour, when Warped Tour was going around, I was just so hyped for that. I was crowd surfing, going to mosh pit, breathing in dust and people's beer farts and shit like that. It was, there's a lot I was able to just withstand. But definitely now, like, I still want to get to the front though, like either front or middle. But I know the consequences if I'm in the middle. Like, I'm totally prepared for the pit rule. Like, if you're in the outside, like outside of the ring, like you will get hurt. Watch out for the hardcore dancers.
Yeah.
God, yeah, they're so annoying.
The resilience of youth to withstand the beer farts.
Yeah. But yeah, like sometimes like in more aggressive bands, you just want to be getting the full experience. Period.
Yeah. I used to have a much greater interest in being in the front, and I don't know, that just kind of tapered off. I just suddenly got a lot less interested in it just because, like, I don't know, it was like Black Friday shopping. There's just always going to be someone there earlier than you.
Yeah.
And like you can't give up your spot to like get a food or drink or go to the bathroom or anything. So I'm totally resigned to just like hanging out on like the edges, and then once a mosh breaks out, then I can kind of like get it. That usually a good mosh usually shifts the dynamic of the whole crowd anyway, so you can kind of like get up closer if you need to.
You're just like, this is my chance.
Yeah, being in a mosh is very fun, and I was telling like some friends recently, that like. Oftentimes I usually like make it a bit more hyperbolic because like I want it to sound as like awesome as like I feel like it is.
For sure.
But like for the most part, you know, a lot of shows it is just kind of like glorified like pushing circles and stuff. Mm-hmm. But that said, like there absolutely are like niche groups and like with hardcore bands and like grindcore and stuff, there is like legit people just looking to like make you bleed or like potentially start a fight or something. Like there's been some wild shows with some violence, but for the most part, it's just like a pretty fun, or when you get bands like Chon and stuff, it's just like a happy mosh pit of just people sort of like bouncing around.
It's a weird
Dance
vibe.
Gavin Dance or something.
Oh, Dance Gavin Dance. Yeah. I remember that being like a super intense show for like a band that didn't think like their fan base would go that hard for them.
As I said earlier, like Dillinger Escape Plan's my favorite. And when they did their farewell tour, we saw them at Soundstage. I think it was the very first date in their last tour or something like that. Mm-hmm. Anyway, it doesn't matter where along the tour it was, but I was so pumped for it. And the night before, you and Oneida went to see Dance Gavin Dance at the same venue, and you were like talking about how like the crowd was going crazy and like they had it like all the way open to the back, and there was like the circle pit, like everyone was running it around the entire venue.
Yeah, there's not
and
a
like
spot to be
screaming
standing
the lyrics
around
the entire time, and I was like so primed and ready for that last show for the crowd to just be crazy in there, and I was like I was pretty butthurt that like people really didn't go all out for them. Like in the immediate front part they did, but like most of it was, I was expecting the venue to just be like torn down.
There were a few ambulances.
I was pretty butthurt for a while thinking about how like the Dance Gavin Dance show like crowd was more wild.
Yeah.
But then fast forward a couple years, and I mean, I've still been a fan of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
But a couple years later, I finally got to see them live, and like their crowd does go wild for them. They give a very fun show.
Yeah. And it's like every moment that Dance Gavin Dance plays, you should be enjoying it and moving in some way. It's just like they've never had like a bad album, no matter like how many member changes they've had, and it always delivers.
And something I found really refreshing too that I wasn't expecting from their show was like how like diverse the fans were. Like it was just like so many girls and like so many different types of people and backgrounds and stuff than like I was expecting. I don't know. It was just like really fun seeing like so many groups of people. Like I remember like at the show at the Fillmore we saw, there was like people from like I went to high school with that I found out later were there. It was just like they just attracted so many different people.
Like they're great musicians. Like they're super versatile, and like I hated them at first, but then like after playing Rock Band for a bit, and then like their song Tree Village came on, I would always be like, all right, let me play this song. This song can't be that hard. It's Dance Gavin Dance. And then started playing it, and I remember sucking so hard playing that song on like Rock Band. I was like, nah, I can't let this happen. I have to like keep playing it. And then eventually it became like my introduction to Dance Gavin Dance, and eventually fell in love with him.
This is suddenly making me think of like we could also just mention, I mean, it would be like a never ending list, but if we keep it to like all times, we could state just like some like all time favorite bands or artists. And I definitely know like the stuff I'm looking for, because like a lot of these bands I mentioned have like a similar sound, but like the Dillinger Escape Plan, Car Bomb, Meshuggah, The Contortionist, and Every Time I Die are what I usually quantify as my top 5 all-time favorites. From then on, it sort of fluctuates. I mean, like Periphery's usually in there in the top 10. Emery, which is like
we saw them.
A weirder choice, but yeah, you went to a show with me. And then like after that, it just kind of goes all over the place. But yeah, those first 5 are like the core things. I'm usually always like trying to replicate that sound.
For me, like my top 5 is always fluctuating how I feel in the moment, but what's always a constant is The Contortionist. Like no matter what mood I'm in, like they have an album for a mood. Like Intrinsic for kind of like your more experimental sound, and you got Language for like more of a refined, beautiful, and then kind of aggressive sound for some songs, but it's just so melodic. Then you got Clairvoyant, which is just kind of like emotional, like more emotional. And then you got like your balls to the wall Exoplanet with, you know, tasty licks and cleans and like ambience. It's just like they do have like a discography that's like you're not gonna just listen to one.
Yeah.
And Meshuggah is just balls to the wall, and I fucking love them. Like their rhythm is just so tight. Even when we see them live, and I see some like malfunctions to the light where the audio cuts off, they're still like in sync with each other. Like they did not stop, and I was just like, they know their parts back and forth, and like they will never disappoint. Periphery's up there for me. What is that, 3 right now? And
yeah, you don't even have to have a specific number. I just like,
yeah,
I love making lists. So I'm always, especially with music, I'm always like quantifying and redoing lists. Like what's the bands I hate the most? What's the bands I love the most? You know, what fits this mood? So I'm always like ready to go with like a top 5 or something.
Intronaut, they've made it on that list. I love them. I listened to Last Direction of Things, Valley of Smoke. Their newest album too is just fan-fucking-tastic. I love it.
Absolutely. They just recently released a cover song to like a Creedence Clearwater Revival song. Yeah.
Oh man,
it's always
good.
It's always
so good.
I used to not be that crazy about cover songs, but over time I've come to appreciate them a little more. I mean, they're difficult things, you know. They're either done, I don't know. By default, they're pretty difficult because you either have to be like better than the original artist or you have to like totally make it your own. But now over time I've kind of come to realize, okay, you know, there's kind of a third category of just like, whether it's good or not, you're just kind of showing your influences and paying homage and respect and stuff. And that's always fun.
I like when bands like make changes to the covers that they're playing, and like to me kind of like adds their twist and like kind of like shows off their sound in a way too, and influence, just kind of like what they would have done if they were like writing that song and like what caught them in the mood.
Yeah, like I mean, way different from like metal and stuff, but Churches did a cover of Kendrick Lamar's Love, I think, off his latest Damn. And like, man, they totally just reconfigured that song and just made it this like dreamy ballad, like totally in their own style. And it's so cool to hear someone just like totally do it from like their own viewpoint. Like there's some artists that you listen to that just have their clearly own vision to it.
Yeah. Agreed. And my 5, Snarky Puppy, because like I love jazz and I love kind of like big band songs, and like when like guitars are drowned out heavily in those genre and like those style of writing, but like the horns kind of like make you more excited, kind of like wants you to like be more engaged with the horns, and like the drummer and like the bass is obviously is like a core part of like that whole big band style of music, and it's awesome. Like, you know, when you need guitar, it's kind of like just there, like I wouldn't say mediocrely, but they're just there. It's just there.
I definitely agree with the Contortionist, and I would say when I think about a current band that I'm into, they're probably the ones that I get the most excited about, of just like a fresh band making music, and I'm just like always down for what they're into, because like they always change things up, and even if it's not something I'm immediately into, like I was not immediately into Clairvoyant. It was like it was a good while until it finally clicked for me and I really started to appreciate it. But once it resonated with me, I mean, it just like
it's hooked
just
you
as deeply as any other thing they made.
Yeah. I remember like watching like Robbie's Instagram stories, and well, not stories, I don't think they had them at the time, but like Instagram videos, and like he was just posting these badass riffs. I'm like, oh man, this next album looks like they're kind of bringing it back. Like I can't wait to hear these songs in fruition. And then got Clairvoyant. I was like a little disappointed because I didn't get to hear those riffs that I saw on Instagram, but I was rewarded with something greater.
Yeah, I that was sort of my disappointment, was just that like I wanted more heaviness. Is really, I mean, it sounds dumb, but it's as simple as it was. I just wanted more heaviness. So once
they can do it,
and so but then once I finally listened to it for what it was, I just realized what a like evocative package it is. And like I remember one time like reading along to the lyrics, and it was like one of the few times like an album lyrics actually made me like tear up. It was so personal with Mike's friend that passed away from drug overdose. I forget what else I was gonna say. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's how hard it hit me.
Yeah, it just like hit you like, oh. Yeah, I actually watched his. We watched his live stream a few days ago. He kind of talked in about that. That was kind of cool. It was kind of like more insight onto that album.
Oh, I remember. I was going to ask: is Between the Buried and Me still an all-time favorite for yours? Because I remember early on when we first became friends, I think they were like,
yeah, they were at the time. Yeah,
they were like at the forefront for you for like prog metal and stuff, just in general.
They are a band that came into my life a little later on, because like I was first introduced to them, seeing them at Sonar with the Acacia Strain, and I was there to see As I Lay Dying with my friend. But I never had a song make me tear up until I think they played Selkies, the Endless. What was the Endless something?
Obsession.
Endless Obsession. And when Paul Wagner like play that solo, that's when I kind of like started focusing more and more onto them, and then I kind of like teared up, and I was like, I've never heard like something written like that, and that was kind of like what put them on like my all-time favorites.
Absolutely. Yeah, they're awesome. I didn't get into them until a good bit later. Like I'm there's some bands where I'm kind of like a weirdo with like how late I got into them, and also like the album choices that got me into them. Like yeah, like, well, with Between the Buried and Me, it was like Most People Colors was their introduction and favorite. But for me, it was actually The Great Misdirect.
Really?
It was around the time they released the Parallax 2. So there was a lot of buzz around them.
So good.
And I was like, oh, I should give them a try. And I kept listening to their albums and it just wasn't quite clicking with me. And something about The Great Misdirect I just like loved. And then it made me retroactively go back. And then I got into all their albums. But like, I don't know. Sometimes there's just weird other things that just click with me instead.
We were supposed to go see The Great Misdirect in its entirety.
I was so looking forward to that. We
too.
went to a couple of their clinics.
Yeah, that was cool.
Which was very cool.
It's like a PRS Ibanez clinic.
Yeah, we saw clinics for Animals as Leaders and Between the Buried and Me. Are those the only two?
Yeah, that was at Chuck Levin's.
Okay. Yeah.
Animals as Leaders was at their like other location. I think might have been like the storage house or whatever. And then Between the Buried and Me was literally right next door to Chuck Levin's, and that's kind of like where they usually have clinics anyways.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a music nut, you probably don't need the advertisement for it, but definitely check those out if you're interested. I mean, they were so cool and worth it.
Oh my God. I left with the t-shirt and I still wear that to this day.
Yeah, just getting to like just having Q&As and getting to like meet people and whatnot.
I kind of get stage fright when I want to ask something because I'm like, everyone's going to hear my voice and then like maybe hear the shitty question.
Oh yeah. No, I never ask a question because I just figure whatever I ask will be like stupid. And also similar to that is like actually like meeting musicians that you respect and stuff, because like when you're at like these sort of like underground shows and stuff, you're like the separation between the stage and the crowd is like usually nothing. So you have like very well a good chance to like actually meet some of these musicians. And I always have just like such a weird, I'm awkward by default, but I always have such weird interactions with them. It's like the opposite of stage fright. It's like apathy. Like I just don't greet them really or like ask them anything because I just assume like, I'm like, oh, you know, they're tired from their set. You know, they're just people. They got a life. They don't want to hear me, you know, going on about how I've cried, you know, all of their discography and stuff. I just go like, oh, they don't even want to hear from me. So I just like don't really engage. But they're certainly definitely like Greg Puciato from Dillinger. If I ever met him, I would definitely be starstruck and like tongue tied.
Oh yeah, he's a handsome guy.
He's
a handsome guy.
He's a chonk.
Yeah.
He's a hunk. Yeah.
Oh my God. And he's also from Baltimore too.
Yeah, that's right.
We should probably talk about how we first met.
Yeah,
that was fun.
Right on.
Who wants to go first?
Well, okay. So it was at McDaniel College. I was there at the time. Actually, this is awesome too. This story can segue into another thing I wanted to bring up earlier, but forgot. So anywho, McDaniel College, me and my girlfriend Sarah were attending there, and I think it was the night or day before we became Facebook official. And I swear this information will make sense in a bit. So we just become Facebook official and like, you know, tell the world about it and whatnot.
Like finally.
And so then we go to this friend's birthday party. And we're just, you know, hanging out, talking, having a good time and stuff. And I was wearing a Dillinger Escape Plan shirt. And at some point, I was just kind of like surveying the room and seeing people. And I see this dude wearing a Between the Buried and Me shirt. And we just sort of like lock eyes and like point at each other and then just like meet up in the middle of the room and just start going on and on and on about music and just find out all these like similar things that we're into, so much to the point that like it became an object of attention. Like people were looking and noticing it and stuff. And then I think we even like took off and like went to the pub and went to get some food.
Yeah.
I swear we were only gone for like 45 minutes, but Sarah would be remiss if I didn't mention that apparently it must have been like a couple hours or something.
Probably. It didn't feel that long.
And so that became like an inside joke about just like,
I
we
stole
started
your mans.
dating. Yeah. And then Walter stole me the next day.
That was pretty funny. Like, I think it was awesome that like we saw each other and then like, I don't know what if one of us didn't wear a shirt saying like what bands we were into.
Honestly, I don't know. I mean, maybe, but like
probably not, because like we probably wouldn't
I don't
have
know.
a reason to talk.
College me was like, I'm trying to think what year that was. If that was sophomore year or whatever. Like college me was definitely more confident than like high school me, but I was still, it was like day to day. I was fluctuating if I was like outgoing or introverted or whatever. It was all over the place. So yeah, it would have been like 50-50 if I actually like went around the room and just started talking to people. And that's usually why I enjoy wearing like band merch and stuff, is just like, I like that the money like supported an act that I liked. And then just in the event that it like, sparks a conversation or something.
Absolutely. And especially like we see like randos on the street, you're kind of like, oh, cool, he's into that. Like, I'm into that. Like, don't even have to say anything, but you already know, like, he probably likes a good amount of the same music you do, which is enough for me to be approach somebody.
There is like a sort of shorthand to like certain like segments of music. Like if someone is wearing like a, I don't know, Philip DeMarco shirt or something, it's like, okay, I could probably get an idea of like stuff you're into, or Kira Kira Benito, or
Kira Benito,
or Toe or something. I don't know. There's just all sorts of stuff you could put together.
One thing that disappoints me about like when I see international acts, sometimes their merch will be whack, and I just don't want to buy merch because I want to wear their merch, and then I just don't want to, not throwing shade at like any bands that have like, I guess not cool designs or whatever, but like it's just like I want to wear, like, support you guys. And sometimes like that tears me from buying your merch. I still wanted to go see you guys.
Oh, I definitely feel that. Yeah, there's been some. I mean, after the burial and Every Time I Die, there for a while didn't really have any merch I was interested in. Now they've got like a lot more variety and stuff. But yeah, there was like a point in time where there just wasn't really anything I was interested in. Yeah. And I was like, please, like, I want to give you my money. I really do. But like, I also just don't want to wear that.
Yeah. But yeah,
shoot me now if they listen to this.
Yeah, like don't hurt us. I still have one of the After the Burial shirts from Warped Tour that I still wear to this day.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah,
I keep appreciating them more as time goes on. Like Evergreen's really been growing on me, and just God, they're just stupid heavy.
Yeah. They get their breakdowns and then get out. And every album, like, maybe sounding a little bit different from the previous, but you don't leave disappointed either way.
Yeah, absolutely.
You get what you want. They get what they want.
Also, like a hyper specific thing I like about them. Do you know the Dynasty Warriors games?
Yeah.
I was like real into those when I was younger, and just like, I don't particularly know how to describe it in like musical terms, but just like, when you're just playing the game, there's lots of like guitar solos and stuff that like in the soundtrack of those games that just like really sounds like kind of like wintry and like crisp and stuff, and just like super reminds me of like the tones that After the Burial has. That's
really?
Always this like hyper specific thing that I've really liked with them.
Interesting.
Tesseract sometimes gets up there a little bit too.
I can see that with Tesseract.
Yeah.
After the Burial, not so much, but Tesseract, absolutely. Ackle definitely has like a really specific clean tone, and then like how he phrases stuff, and especially in the like ambient clean parts too. Like it's kind of folky and stringy too.
Yeah, absolutely. And the tangent I was going to go on talking about like the party and how we met. So what I meant to bring up more when I was talking about like my background earlier, like with videography and stuff, is like I got a degree in cinema, and growing up, I've always had like a fascination with movies, and, you know, I wanted to be like a movie director and move out to California and stuff.
The dream.
Yeah. And then, you know, fast forward, yada, yada, you know, life experiences and whatnot. And, just, you know, it wasn't as for me as I thought it was. So I do videography for work. And I absolutely enjoy it. I love doing it, but just like my passion is just so with music for just like so many reasons. I just love that it's like, as much as I love movies and paintings and everything else, like it's ultimately like a well-crafted thing that's like a finished product. But I just love the performative aspect of music, that like they can, as you see a band, they're like literally humans that develop and adapt and change, and like, you know, they'll have different samples, they'll, you know, improvise different things, they'll change over time, and just like that kinetic energy that we talked about earlier, it's just like irreplaceable to me. Like I've you know, had movies and books and things that have been emotionally evocative to me, but like I don't know if I've ever had the feeling of just like total euphoria that I've had at like there was one time I saw Gojira live, and one time I saw Gojira. Wow. Okay. There was one time I saw Gojira live, and one time I saw the Contortionist live, where, and it could have been all the like weed that was in the air, but like truly felt like I transcended, and I was like so euphoric. I was just like so in the moment and so at bliss that I just like, I wouldn't trade anything to have those kind of experiences.
Like, I remember seeing Tesseract headline, and I think the Contortionists played before them, and like that pit was stupid heavy. And when Tesseract goes on, they kind of put on a show, like Fog Machine. You don't even see the drummer behind all that fog. They'll literally play a soundtrack of just air in the wind, and that's kind of like their style. They'll make you wait too. Like I remember when the lights dimmed and the Fog Machine is going on, I was like, okay, shit's about to go off, blah blah blah.
7 minutes later, like nothing. 15
minutes later too, and they finally started walking on stage, and then, you know, crowd goes, whatever. But like the clarity and like how intense their playing was made it all worth it, and I wouldn't trade anything for it.
This isn't even like going anywhere, this tangent, but I think the longest I waited once for a band was like, it was Sum 41.
Oh, really?
They used to be my favorite band for many middle school, pretty much all the way through high school. And I saw them live once, and they were like 55 minutes late or something like that.
What?
And like the crowd erupted when they finally got on, but like that was a long wait.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm assuming they still played their entire set.
And I'm talking like the previous band played, you know, like 30-minute sound check or whatever, and then like an additional like 50 minutes or something.
Yeah.
Like, it was no good.
Did they play their entire set, or did the venue had to like cut their set just a bit because they
played the whole thing?
Oh, good.
I'm pretty sure they did. I mean, they played a lot. So yeah, I'm pretty sure they still got to do their whole thing. Maybe because it was like, I think it might have been like a weeknight or something. So they kind of weekdays. I think they have like that rule or something. They have to like cut stuff. Maybe I'm thinking in Baltimore, they have to cut stuff off by 11 or something.
I think that's universal in Maryland.
Oh, okay, yeah.
As far as my understanding.
Yeah, like it might have been a weekend show, so they just like kind of let it ride or something. But yeah, anyway, I should have ended it on like a different note. But I think we're about like an hour in, or something.
I think we're good.
This was rad.
Yeah,
this is fun stuff.
Yeah.
We got. Oh man,
we got a bunch more.
There were so many moments talk about specific bands where I had to like bite my tongue. Yeah, I was just like, no, don't get into detail about the show. There's later.
Yeah,
but yeah, this will be a fun project. We got. I mean, tons of shows we're going to get into, reviews and deep dives. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Hope you stay tuned.
Yeah. Thank you for tuning in. And till next time, I'm out.
Thank you.
Thank you.